Oh, great. I see Marquetta must be in the room.
Welcome.
Nice to see you again.
Good to be seen.
Happy Monday.
Good to be seen on a Monday morning.
Good morning, Marquetta.
Good morning. How are you?
You know, I've been better, but
Oh,
you
my
know,
goodness.
isn't it wonderful to have technology? And it also allows some other folks to join in with us, also virtually. So Marquetta, before we get started, I'm going to have the group go around and introduce themselves. Why don't we do the table first? And then John, when you think that the table is done, why don't you and Brian come on because you're virtual? Just introduce who you are and what your role in the organization is.
I'm Rachel Browning. I'm the Director of Student Services.
Good morning. I'm Garrett Wilson, Learning Community Director for Northwest.
Good morning, I'm Carol Jennings, Learning Community Director of Central.
Okay.
Good morning, Marquetta. I'm Heather Stewart, POSA for Resiliency and Recovery.
Great to see you again. I'm Jeremy. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Marquetta. I'm John Mann. I'm the director of the zone schools.
Good morning, Nikita. My name is Brian Shaw. I'm the principal at East Middle School.
Okay, Marquetta, as you know, we are recording this, as you have given some permission to allow that to happen, and we'll be making this available to our colleagues. So in lieu of a public forum, okay?
Great.
All right, any questions?
Well, I do have one clarifying question, Dr. Scupa. I sent the presentation, the 90-day plan, and I did not bring copies. So I'm curious as to if the members of the committee have access to that or not.
Okay, let me see. I did not. Did you send that to me?
I shared it with you, yes.
Oh, okay. I do not know if I got, hold on.
I can take my few extra early minutes and run some copies real quick if I need to.
No, you'll be okay. There's ways that we can access it
Okay.
electronically or whatever. So
I think electronically.
Okay, Marquetta, I did not seem to get that. So why don't we do this? Why don't you go ahead and do your presentation, and then we will copy those for the committee members to look at for tomorrow, okay? Will that
that'll
work?
be fine.
All
It'll be
right,
fine.
okay, great. All right, so Marquetta, your first task is going to be your 90-day plan. As you come in as the future executive director of school performance, all right?
Wonderful. So first, I want to say thank you so much to everybody. Some faces look familiar. I've seen you before, and you're probably saying to yourself, my goodness, every week I'm going to be spending time with her. And that's what I hope is the case. And so with that said, let me just share just a little bit. I've been asked to share the 90-day plan. One of the things that I think is very important as I think about moving into the role of the executive director of school performance is to make sure that not only is there a 90-day plan, but there is clarity around our vision. We know that planning is important, but if we're planning and we don't have that same vision, then we have a problem. One of the things that I shared before and that I will continue to share is that the vision is clear. The vision has been laid out for us, and we may come in with our own whys and our own direction, but the vision is very clear for us. And that is that every student in APS, no matter who the student is, but every student shapes a successful future. And you know what? That's not just the vision for APS kids, but that should be our vision for every student in public education. And so when I think about planning, we have various goals that are specific to our strategic plan. We have various measurable outcomes that and end statements that we are going to be responsible for. So then if we're very clear on those pieces, then the planning is what you want to know about. What does the 90 days look like since we have that clarity? So let me just share a little bit about that. When I think about the 90 days, I think about basically breaking it up into 3 months, into 3 chunks. That first 30-day chunk would be when people think about change theory, they call it unfreeze. I would say it's an opportunity to understand. It is an opportunity to really get into the system and learn, look, listen, and to give people an opportunity to learn what motivates me, how I am going to go about leading the work. One of the biggest opportunities that exist here is an opportunity to hear from the system what has worked, what have been successes. Because often we get so mired in what has not worked, we don't really give true focus on these are some of the positives. And we know we've had positives. We also, though, have to be real and we have to recognize what are the challenges, what has not worked, and what haven't we done. There are people in this organization with great hearts and great minds. How are we taking advantage of that and utilizing that? So when we think about those first 30 days, part of it is understanding and learning from previous experience. The other part is, what does that team look like? As I said before, we have great people with great minds, but we also got to make sure that we have the right people. And we've got to be clear that the people in the team and the people on the team recognize these are the talents that each individual brings. One of the things that Jim Collins said that when we think about the 30 days, he talks about having the right people on the bus, and not only having the right people on the bus, having the right people in the right seats. Those 30 days, the first 30 days are about making sure we have the right people in the right seats so that when we begin to take off, we know that we are all doing what we're supposed to be doing to be going in the right direction. And so building that team so that when we say people are in the right seats, they know they got to sit down sometimes, that everybody can't drive the bus. And so that during that first 30 days, there is not only forming of the team, but there is norming of the team and making sure that there is an understanding that we all have roles to play. How are we going to play those roles? And how are we going to play them kindly and respectfully, but in a way that allows us to get our work done? And so those first 30 days, also I want to say being crystal clear. I really am a person, it was interesting, one of the ladies that I had the good fortune to sit with on Friday, she talked about her emergenetics profile. And I have my emergenetics profile as well. And one of the things that is very important to me, I am a green person. I am very green. I truly believe in structure. I truly believe in we have to have a plan and we work our plan. And when the plan doesn't work, we don't keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, but we come back and we say, how are we adjusting that plan in order to get a different result? But that's the green in me. So I want to make sure that we are crystal clear on where we're going and what we're trying to do. I also wanted to make sure that when we think about the 90-day plan, so want to go to the second month in. So we've had an opportunity to be clear. We've gotten the right people on the bus. We're going in the right direction. Now the next 30 days, excuse me, I said an opportunity to grow on my slides, but it's really an opportunity to go. Because at this point, we've got to start making some strides. We can't spend an entire year, decade, chunk of time just continuing to say, okay, let's create a plan. We don't have to implement it yet. Let's just admire the plan. We need to just go ahead and start doing the work, because every time we recreate a plan and we sit back and admire it, kids are being left behind. I've shared this before, and this truly is my heart. Kids don't get to redeem the time. When it's lost, it's lost. When we have a kid that is in 3rd grade and they leave 3rd grade and they still aren't reading on track, we don't get to go back and say, okay, honey, let's go back in 4th grade now and let's recoup what you missed in 3rd grade. And think about this. Think about the fact that we're still living in a pandemic, but the most challenging days of the pandemic, we hope, are behind us. Think about that kid that was in kindergarten when the pandemic began, and now going into 2nd grade, having their first real experiences in the classroom. Think about the loss. And we want to say, we're going to slow roll our work because we want to get it perfect. Our kids can't afford for perfection to get in the way of doing the very best that we can. And so when I think about that second 30 days, it is about the opportunity to grow. It is about building that sense of urgency and the fact that we don't get our time back. It is about communicating that why in a clear and honest way. But then it is about people understanding, even if you're not on board with the why, this is the what and the how that we are going to get done on behalf of kids. And now we're moving it forward. And in this time, even if you're not on board with the why, this is the what and the how. This is your opportunity to ask questions, to gain knowledge, and to grow. But we are going to go. And so that's what that second 30-day window is about. That sense of urgency, that sense of clarity and understanding, and the ability to monitor and adjust. We are not going to just, like I said, keep hitting our head against the wall, thinking that we are doing something different, but going to that same space and hitting our head. And so if we are not monitoring and adjusting, then that's a problem. How do we know what to monitor and adjust? I go back to what I said before. We've got good people doing good work. If we don't take advantage of the knowledge that they are bringing, if our school leaders are telling us and we're not listening to them, then what is our problem? If the teachers are telling the school leaders and the school leaders aren't listening to the teachers, what is our problem? That's what that second 30 days is about. How are we creating and making sure that we figure out where we have holes, that we fill them, and where we adjust? It's almost like I go back to Jim Collins again and being on that bus. It's if you, I'm sure none of you have had this problem, but the Siri comes on and says, recalculating, because you missed the turn. If we miss the turn and we're unwilling to turn around or to recognize that we missed the turn, then we have a problem. We have to recognize and we have to hear when folks are saying to us, we missed the turn, you know what, you're right. We're gonna turn this around, we're gonna go back and we're gonna make that left. We need to make that turn. And so that's what that second 30 days is about. It is also about building coherent systems. Brene Brown talks about clarity is kindness. We got to have clarity in our system. When we talk about building collaborative culture, when I talk about collaborative culture, it's not just, oh, let's sit in a room and let me talk and we're going to collaborate together. Collaborative culture is two-way communication. We are talking, we are listening, we are learning and growing together. When I talk about coherence, it is that professional learning. It is also about accountability and to ensure that as leaders in the school performance department, we are accountable just as we are holding leaders accountable. We got to model the same behavior that we expect from our school leaders. And that means sometimes we've got to say, you know what? I didn't get this quite right, but I'm committed to getting it right. There's no shame in owning failure or mistakes. The shame is an unwillingness to fail. We've got to learn from our failures. We've got to own it, and we've got to be able to empower people to recognize, I'm holding you accountable because I've worked with principals and school leaders before that appreciate autonomy. It is important in the job, but in autonomy without accountability does not get us to where we're trying to go. So we've got to have that accountability in order to put those guardrails in place. So that's pretty much we're up to 60 days. The last 30 days, we want an opportunity to continue to lead for success. The last 30 days is basically shaping the path. We should have some behaviors that we have seen that we want to continue to see, some behaviors that we want to change. We want to also make sure that we're providing adequate resources and support to sustain what we've seen up to this point. And we want to make what we've done stick. We want it to truly be a part of what it is we are trying to do. I think I've gone over my 10 minutes, but I just want to end with this. When I think about that 90-day plan, it is basically built to maximize our impact on a daily basis, recognizing that every small daily collective action gives our team the opportunity to make big differences for the students and the adults in Aurora Public Schools.
Great, thanks, Marquetta. So we have about 25, 30 minutes from this point on. So you know you have about 10 questions, so I know you'll gauge this. But take a few minutes and talk to us about yourself, particularly the experiences that have prepared you for this role, and why do you want to come to Aurora to be our executive director?
So thank you for that question. If you can't tell, I could probably talk for the next hour. And so I will try to cut it down just a tad bit. I am a child of public schools. I am not a child from Aurora Public Schools. I grew up in Virginia. I grew up in the segregated South. And one of the reasons public education means so much to me is because of that experience. My family were staunch supporters when Brown versus the Board of Education passed, and the belief that public education and integration of schools would make the biggest difference for our kids. That's what I grew up with. And my family always said, you will work in education. And I always said, you are wrong, I will not. And my initial degree actually is in communications. And I worked at a radio station for years and then realized this is not where my heart is. And those folks that said education is where my heart is knew me better than I even knew myself at a young age. And so I ultimately went back to school, got a degree in elementary education. I worked and taught everything from kindergarten through 8th grade. I have taught language arts. I have taught in Michigan, in Connecticut, in Ohio, and most recently in Cherry Creek Schools. I have served as a building administrator from the role of assistant principal, dean, and founding principal at Infinity Middle School. And now I am working with Denver Public Schools as a regional instructional superintendent in the Central Region. Yes, and I tell you, as I said, education is the equalizer. That's the biggest thing that I bring to the table, is the recognition and the hope that we have for our students, that moving and making sure that we remove all barriers that stand in the way for any and every student to be educated is why I want to do this work. And that's what I bring to Aurora Schools. I want to have the opportunity to make the greatest impact. Right now, I am able to impact a region. This opportunity will give me the scope that allows me to impact a whole system. And so that's my interest in this position.
Great. Thanks, Marquetta.
Marquetta, how will you foster a culture of equitable collaboration and decision-making within school performance?
When I think about equitable collaboration, one of the things that I will go back to is what I shared before, and that is collaboration is a two-way process. It is not only speaking, but it is listening. And when I think about equitable collaboration, and I think about, we talk about equity, but we also have to move to inclusivity. When we think about equity, it's not enough for individuals, especially those individuals in the dominant culture, to be able to say, hey, I'm helping this group of people. We've got to engage in communication around equity in every space where we are. It can't just be in rooms like this. It can't just be in PD sessions, but it has to be everywhere that we are in order for it to truly impact and dismantle the system that we're currently living in. And so how do I foster that? It is a willingness and an openness to be available to people. It is a willingness and an openness to model for people what is expected. And it is a willingness to teach. I am not interested in moving into the position of executive director of school performance without a mindset that I am still first and foremost an educator. That's the work. And so how I foster that is going to be, how am I going to model? How am I going to educate? And how am I going to be open to remove those barriers?
Okay, Brian.
Yes, ma'am. The Department of School Performance has not had an executive director for over 2 years. Tell us how you'll establish yourself as a leader and how will you build confidence and coherence among the team?
And so I wish you had my presentation in front of you because there is a slide in there about coherence, because to me that is extremely important. I think though, however, before I even talk about coherence, how will I establish myself as a leader? The second, when I go back to my emerging addicts profile, the second part to that to me after the structure is that social piece, that ability and willingness to connect to people. I truly believe in people and I honor people and what they bring. And one of the things, especially if there has been an absence of leadership in this role, is let me back up, an absence of a particular leader in this role, because the work is still being done. So there has been leadership. And what I need people to recognize in coming in is that I recognize that there have been multiple folks that have been leading the work. And I'm not coming in to diminish anyone's light. I'm coming in to say, how do we pull all of that light together to illuminate the department? I am not the type of leader who needs, oh, attaboy, Marquetta, good job, Marquetta, you're doing it, you're doing it. That's not me. I'm the leader that wants to make sure that the people doing the work are getting the support that they need. And that's more likely than not what has been missing in the last 2 years. People are doing the work. The support that they need is not there. So then how do I bring coherence to that work? Again, it is making sure now under my leadership that our direction and our focus is crystal clear. That I heard someone say, and most of our arrows, I won't say all of our arrows, but most of our arrows are going in the same direction. And people are clear what that direction needs to be. That we are engaged in professional learning as a team, and we are making sure that we are deepening that learning so that people are comfortable enough to say, I don't know, but I want to know. Help me get better at this. That's how we develop coherence. Again, how do we build that culture, that collaborative culture, so that we are not only talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. And then again, that we have internal and external accountability.
So Marquetta, I'm curious about the scaling of the work. School-based initiatives are very different than district initiatives. And I'm just curious about how you use your experience when planning for and leading implementation for large scale and sustainable change.
And so when I think about leading district initiatives versus school initiatives, while there is a difference in terms of scale, you still lead and work with people in the same way. You still have to make sure that there is clarity around what is being asked, and you are utilizing the team that you have pulled together in order to ensure that there is clarity and then to move that out. I am not going to be moving forth large-scale initiatives alone. If I were, I would be terrified. But because I know that I have a team that I'm going to be working with, then the question becomes, how do I mobilize the team? How do I, again, bring coherence to the team so then that the team is able to unify and then push out what we need? So when we look at that strategic plan, how do we break that into incremental bites so that school leaders recognize this is how this shows up in my strategic plan. This is how this shows up when I'm identifying my performance challenges. And so that's what the team is for. And that's what I'm going to do, is to utilize my team.
Thank you.
Over the past few years, our graduation rates have increased. However, SAT results have stagnated. There is an increased expectations on grad requirements, and students at the secondary level have been highly impacted by the pandemic. What do you see as the role that school performance can play in helping address these increased challenges?
Well, Jeremy, I appreciate you asking this question.
Again,
I think when I think about the fact, and I'm thrilled that graduation rates are increasing, but when I think about this question, one of the things that comes to mind is how will our departments work together? That is the first thing that comes to mind, because if we are not working together to figure out how to tackle this, then the siloed approach that we know does not work has won again. And so when I think about the school performance department, it is how do we sit together and identify what is the root cause? And now that we've identified some of the root causes, how do we tackle this together? We can't tackle it over here by ourselves, but together we can build something to take to our schools that we can implement.
Excellent. And number 7, can you tell us about a time where you, as the leader, experienced workplace conflict in your school or department? How did you lead the team? What strategies did you use? Were you successful? And if you have the opportunity to do it over, what would you do?
Well, there's always conflict. The question is, how big is the conflict? I would tell you the most recent conflict would have been, the most recent conflict that I would share would be, I had 2 individuals that were at conflict with one another. And the conflict was philosophical in terms of some CRE work that was being done. And what we were able to do is to have the individuals sit together, because the challenge was there was, I won't say an unwillingness, but an inability to hear one another. And isn't that typical how conflict often occurs, because I have my position and my position is right, and you are not hearing me. And so what we were able to do is some more of those restorative practices in terms of bringing people together and helping, even before we brought them together, we sat, and this was me and my instructional improvement specialist. We worked with the 2 specialists together and had them share with us, what are your concerns? What's the issue? Because this is so out of character in terms of your ability to engage. And so in meeting with each of them individually, got a sense of these are the challenges that each one of you is experiencing. And then we got a commitment from them that they had a willingness to sit together and to engage. And we did. We had them sit and share. And I would love to say, and there was a kumbaya moment and everybody was happy, but these are grown people, these are adults. And no matter how much you might want to try to bring people together and to get them on the same page, we ended our conversation with an agreement to continue to work together and an understanding that everybody comes with their own perspective. And I don't get to dismiss somebody else's perspective, even if I don't agree with it. And what I would love to do differently is to be able to have a magic wand and to sprinkle to wave my magic wand and make everything perfect. But that's just not the case. We were successful in that folks were able to talk. Folks were able to recognize different perspectives. We were not successful in terms of two people having that, yeah, you're both in it. We're both in it for the right reasons. We're doing the right thing and we are happy with each other. Yeah, we didn't have that. But we still work together and we still, I believe, respect each other. So some success, some challenge.
So much.
Mhm.
Perfect. What are the key characteristics of a healthy and well-functioning team? How would you, as the team's leader, make sure the team maintains them? How will you mentor individuals on your team so they grow as professionals?
When I think about the characteristics of a healthy, well-functioning team, one of the first things that comes to mind is communication. We have got to be able to communicate with one another without fear, without shame, and with respect and kindness. And I've already said clarity is kindness. And so when I think about a well-functioning team, we're talking about clarity, we're talking about communication, we are talking about respect and honoring one another. And we are talking about doing the work. If we are not doing the work, we are not a well-functioning team. When I think about a healthy team, we also have to be able to challenge one another. We have to be able to recognize that everybody in the room doesn't think the same way. And there has to be a willingness to, and an openness to say, hey, this is my perspective. And when you say that, I need you to know this is what I hear. And we've got to be able to challenge one another. We've got to be able to have healthy disagreement. And then after we have healthy disagreement and we arrive at the place where we're going, then we all unite and say, we're going together. I've expressed my challenges and my concerns, but this is what we've decided. Now we are all leaning in together and we're doing the work. That's what a healthy, functioning team looks like. As the team leader, how do I make sure that we maintain this? One, I model this for the team, but two, I hold people accountable for this. And if that means I'm having coaching conversations with you based on behaviors that I've seen, or based on the impact of words that I've heard, or actions that I've seen or overheard, then I'm having coaching conversations. But as the leader of the department, it is my responsibility to model, to coach, and to hold people accountable.
How would you build relationship and alignment among staff, interconnecting the work of the 4 learning communities? What steps would you take to deepen relationships and align the work with other departments?
Building relationships is so tricky because we say all the time, relationships are key, relationships are important. I hear teachers all the time, I build relationships with my students, and building relationships is more than knowing that you have a spouse and you have a family. Building relationships is more than knowing you like this particular kind of latte from Starbucks. Building relationships is about knowing the heart of the people with whom you work. That takes time. You don't build a relationship with a person overnight. It takes time. It takes a genuine commitment to people. And that's what I do when I go into any position. It is a commitment that I make to the people with whom I work. And one of the primary reasons that I do this, and it may sound selfish, but it is my truth. But the primary reason that I make that commitment to the people with whom I work is because I want them to make that commitment to me. When we talk about building relationships, it's a joint venture. It's not a one-sided situation. It's a joint venture. And so there is an expectation for me when I think about the 4 communities that make up school performance, that commitment is across the board. It is not simply a commitment that's made to me, but it's a commitment that's made to the team. We have to work together. We need to be in relationship together. That's an expectation. That's how we honor one another. And so what steps would I take to deepen relationships? It would be, again, continuing to model that, continuing to hold people accountable for that, and to lead the way. You show up with heart, you show up with encouragement, and you know what? You have a little bit of fun along the way too.
None of that, never. I never have fun.
Okay, we're on number 10. The school performance team provides oversight to schools. How do you keep the instructional focus when there are many large and small crises that rise?
And so that truly is the question, because what happens in many schools is the technical gets in the way of the adaptive, because the technical is what people see immediately. If there is a fight in the hallway, if there's an upset parent, all of those things, oh yes, I settled that parent down, I got that resolved, I got those pieces taken care of. People tend to, they will quickly tell you, these are the things that I did today, these are the technical things. And so as the leader in school performance, it becomes my responsibility, it becomes the team's responsibility, the community leaders, it becomes your responsibility to push our school leaders out of that technical. And after you share the technical, let's go to the adaptive. What are you doing? Give me more in terms of these areas. And so it becomes our responsibility, just as the technical keeps rising, that we keep raising the adaptive. How is this looking? How are we doing this? And we've got to keep that in the forefront.
Okay, Marquetta, I'm going to ask the team if they have any clarifying questions. As there are none, you always get the opportunity to have some closing thoughts. What do you want to leave the team with? And you can certainly address anything that perhaps our questions did not identify.
I have to share this with the team just because I know you probably, only because I'm sitting here thinking, you all are sitting there going, okay, how many times is she going to sit in front of us? And so I feel like if there's an elephant in the room, you've got to address it. So I feel like that's my closing. That's where I want to leave you with. I truly believe that I am ready to lead at the next level. And that's why I keep showing up in your space. 1, I'm ready to lead at the next level. And 2, I have connected with the vision and the mission. When I look at the strategic goal, at the strategic plan, and I look at the work that is ahead, and I know that you haven't made the gains that you need to make for students, I want to be engaged in this work. I actually am excited about the possibilities that exist. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be doing this for 20 more years. I know it's hard to believe. I know I look very youthful, but I'm not going to be doing this for 20 more years. But for the years that I have remaining to do this work, I want to make a significant difference for the greatest group of kids that I can. And that's why I'm sitting in front of you. That's why I'm saying, APS, you want me as much as I want you, because I want to be able to make that difference. And so that's what I leave you with. And so thank you so much for your time.
Marquetta, thank you. And if you will send me or Sylvia the PowerPoint, I'll make sure that the team gets it. And then I have to apologize because I think I started as like 15 minutes too early. So I forgot it was 9:30 and not 9:15. So I really rushed the team through so we could get through. So I apologize to everyone. I guess I was really excited to have you in front of the group again today. So a little bit more about process is that we have really our interviews again tomorrow. And so I really hope that I will be in contact with you no later than Wednesday evening, okay?
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for being able to do this with me today. I have a regional meeting tomorrow, so could not cancel that. So thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone's time. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Marquetta.
you.
Okay, Michelle, you can stop the recording now. And then I'll